It was a beatdown in the Coleman Coliseum. Alabama put the hurt on the Kentucky Wildcats. I'll be completely honest. When we talk that kind of sentence, you think I'm talking about football. No, I'm talking college basketball. Alabama, they're starting to look like a college basketball school right now. They are looking very good. Nate Oates has that team exactly where they need to be. 78-52 final here. Bama, number 7 in the country, moving to 13-2. I expect that to probably move up once the rankings get resettled at the beginning of the week here. I have a lot of questions, Steve. None of them are about the Crimson Tide. They're all about this Kentucky Wildcat team and a
I'm
lot
sure.
about the security of Calipari. What's your thoughts on this team and what's your thoughts on this game?
I mean, Calipari hasn't been hired by Texas yet.
Right.
I
You
mean, that
stole
was the
some of my
hot
thunder
rumor.
right there, too. I know. That's an interesting take, too. If he goes from a blue blood in the SEC to a team coming into the SEC. I mean, it's almost like written in, it seems like it's already written in the tea leaves right now. But regardless, let's put that aside. Let's talk about that in a little bit, about your thoughts on maybe in Texas, because I thought I was going to shock you with that. I guess I'm not. So what's your thoughts on Calipari and this Kentucky team? I mean, Sheboy, wooden player of the year, didn't score until 30 minutes into this ball game. I mean, their starters were completely awful. They were terrible. This Kentucky team, who was number 1 in KenPom at the beginning of the year, is now 10-5, and I don't know if we're ever going to see them ranked again this season.
Yeah, I can't see it, and it's really odd for me because say what you will about John Calipari and whether you like him or you think he's playing the system or using kids for his advance his career. You can go on and on about that type of stuff. I'm certainly not of that school, but a lot of people are very critical of him. His players, I just don't think that they're listening to him. I think that they've been reading the headlines a little bit too much. And, they think, well, I don't need to listen to that. I mean, Calipari, benched Sheboy because he was not following the directions. I mean, the very first score of the game, uh, Alabama's center got in behind him, easy layup. Eventually, they called the timeout. Coming out of the timeout, and he even said, "Look, you cannot do this. You've got to position yourself better. Do not let him get behind you." Right out of the timeout, got behind him again. And I just don't. When you recruit the caliber of athletes that Kentucky always does, yeah, there's a lot of egos. Yeah, you kind of have to turn your head a little bit sometimes at some of the behaviors or some of the out of control play. But I mean, it's not just one or two players. I mean, it's the entire roster that just seems to be just saying, well, I don't want to listen to the old man anymore. I don't need to worry about that. And I wonder if Calipari is kind of tired of the intense pressure that comes from the alumni, that come from the boosters for this program. Okay, yes, they help pave the way to get these players to come to Kentucky, and I think with the licensing deals and all of that, I mean it's only going to potentially play to Kentucky's benefit because they have such a strong base with the boosters and the alumni. But I don't think Calipari, he's to the point. It's like, look, I've shown you, I've proven everything I need to prove. I'm not going to deal with all this. Why not go to a program where I can become a hero again? That's why I wanted to kind of segue into with the Texas idea, because I
Yeah.
really think that Calipari, you watch him on the bench. I mean, and I remember specifically, I'm an unabashed Duquesne Dukes fan. When Duquesne was giving Kentucky all kind of problems, you could see he was pained watching what he saw. And then I went and saw the replay of the game where they lost to Missouri. And it was even worse. I mean, basically, Missouri took Kentucky to school, and then Nate Oates, between his ability with matchups, and he really does work the scouting reports to try to figure out a way to exploit it. He saw that Sheboy was just not going to he was not going to match up well. He was going to make mistakes. And then Charles, what is it? Betty, I always forget the kid's name, the big center from Alabama. Oh, we'll just call him Charles for now. We'll just call him 7-foot Charlie, because I know that he's a big kid, and but his muscle stronger, more broad-shouldered than him, but he just took Sheway to school, and Sheway only played 20 some odd minutes. He played so poorly, and he was so frustrated by how Alabama played, down near and playing around the rim. It was a masterful job by Nate Oates and by this Crimson Tide team, because Oates said, "You're going to play my style or you're not playing." All of his players are buying it.
I'm probably going to misspell or mispronunciate that name, but Badeko, Charles Badeko. That's what.
Yeah, Badeko. Yeah, okay, that's it. Yes.
Yep. So yeah, he's
Charles.
He's outstanding. No, I'm with you. I mean, Sheway did not look good in this game, especially after them just talking about him being still on the wooden watch list, and yeah, it wasn't good at all. 1 through 7.
1 for 7. He didn't score a bucket until I think about the 30-minute mark, about the 10 minutes left in the game. It just wasn't good whatsoever. We talk about Calipari and his possibility of moving on. Honestly, to be completely fair, if I'm Texas, I'm doing everything I can to interview Nate Oates. I just don't think he's going anywhere. He's really happy where he's at. But that he is really, if you want to talk about a program builder, he's got it right. We're talking about a team at the Coleman Coliseum here in Alabama. That place was rocking against Kentucky. And, I'm not taking anything from Bama fans because they are good through a lot of the sports here, but you're not normally hearing about Alabama being a basketball school. I think a lot of heads are turning and changing it. And I think Oates has a lot to do with that without question. I'm going to get back to Calipari here because I think there's a lot to discuss here. I think he is sick of the Kentucky drama, if you will, if you want to call it that. I think it's two-sided. I don't think it's just Calipari. I think Kentucky fans are also ready to say farewell to Calipari. I mean, they haven't made a Final Four since 2015. There are obviously some woes on each side of the ball, or however you want to put it. I think a lot of this happened. It started to really surface, if you will, in the offseason. If you remember, there was a tweet that came out about Calipari trying to push his athletic director to get better facilities. Mm-hmm. And the Kentucky football coach came back with a rebuttal saying that no, they should push for, Kentucky football facilities and things like that. Obviously wasn't directed towards any shape or form for Calipari. He was actually trying to just, help the basketball team out. And it seemed like the fans were more on the side of the football team than the basketball team, which is really interesting for a school like Kentucky. I think that's when some issues might have already started and then just started to boil a little bit for Calipari. I think it's going to continue. I think we're going to see some more struggles from this team. I don't see him obviously getting fired. That would cost Kentucky way too much money. There's going to probably be some buyout, maybe possibility at the end of the season. Maybe it comes into play with a team like Texas that, if he gets the buyout, then maybe a team will help that payment. However, I do think this is going to be the last season for Calipari if we do not see Kentucky in the tournament. And as crazy as Kentucky fans were disappointed after that loss in the first round of St. Peter's last year, that might be a good thing compared to what we're seeing this year, because as of right now, they are not on pace to make the NCAA tournament. And I don't know if that gets any better right now, Steve. I don't really, it's crazy to say, but you're talking about the number one team in KenPom at the beginning of the season. Uh-huh. So much expectation for this team. Now we're talking about, can they even make the NIT? There's just a lot of question marks for this school, and it didn't help at all that Alabama exposed every single thing about this squad. Let's talk about this Bama team, because there's a lot of things that was good about this squad, and I mean, they looked really good. Miller looked fantastic. Sears was fantastic. They shot 48% from the field.
Yep.
They just did everything right. They lost the rebounding game, which was actually kind of surprising. They only lost it by a few, but they looked so dang good in this game. Oates has this team exactly where they need to be, moving to 13-2 on the year. Obviously, their losses were some interesting ones this season. They were in November during tournament time. We saw them against UConn, and then the other loss who they lost? They lost in December as well, right? Oh yeah, they also lost to Gonzaga. That's right, both in the tournament. So their losses are to some top teams. But when you look at them and how they fare in the SEC,
I'm looking forward to what they have on Wednesday. Coming up on Wednesday, we see them play Arkansas. Now, Arkansas is banged up, so Alabama should take care of them. However, we are in
Conference play, anything can happen.
No, they're going to crush them.
This team looks like the true front runner right now. If you had to pick a Final Four in the SEC for the tournament time, I mean, I'm right now, I'm sticking Alabama at number one. I know Tennessee's doing really good right now. I know Auburn's having some decent games, but Alabama does not seem to be slowing down anytime soon.
No, and we were both high on Alabama, when we did the SEC preview. We didn't think it would be like this. And I am glad, Christian, that you talked about the fans, because Nate Oates has been pretty vocal, saying, hey, this is a special team here. We're playing some good out of conference, teams at home here in the pre-conference schedule. You need to come out. They're not back in class yet. That place was rocking, and that place was packed. And it shows you that if you put a good product out there, Alabama's always going to be a football school. And you can say that about almost every SEC program, except for maybe Kentucky and Vanderbilt. I mean, they're always going to be football first. But I mean, when they're good in any sport, baseball, a lot of their women's intercollegiate programs, when they have a really special team, those Crimson Tide fans come out and they support them, and they are rabid and they are vocal, and they'll go on, Twitter or whatever it is and say, hey, what about, our gymnastics team or our track and field team? I mean, they're a very, I don't want to say picky fan base, but it's very much like, okay, show me. But, once you prove it to me that you're good, okay, we're all in. And this game, the fans, what little air might have been there for Kentucky to try to gasp and try to get that second wind, the fans sucked it right out of there. So it's great to see Alabama having, the kind of season we have. And Nate Oates, man, yeah, he's going to have, we're going to start comparing him to the Bear Bryants and the Nick Saban's here, I think, pretty soon, because this program's not a 1-year wonder. This program is sustainable. I mean, Brandon Miller's a freshman. I don't know how long he's going to stay. Ideally, at least stays for 2 years. But I mean, this kid's got NBA all over him. So if he decides to stay to really make himself, a lottery pick as opposed to just being a first round pick, or even a second round pick by leaving earlier. Sometimes kids have different situations, but no, Alabama, it was terrific to see this. And part of me is happy they did this to Kentucky, because I'm just so tired of Kentucky basketball fans being so, if it's not a national championship, it's a bad year. If it's not a Final Four, it's a bad year. I'm kind of tired of that chatter.
Blue blood mentality right there. That's truly what it is.
Right. But Calipari is such a great coach, and he's a much better in-game coach than people give him credit for. They're all like, well, he recruits well, and that's why his teams win. No, he's a great X and O guy. And like we alluded to earlier, I mean, if the players aren't paying attention to them, and certainly in the Missouri game, you could tell that they totally blew off whatever play was being drawn up in the huddle. And it certainly happened in this game, and it got Shibwe benched. I hate to see Calipari going through that. I think he deserves better.
Interesting. Yeah, as we spoke about with Alabama, they're going to play Arkansas coming up in the middle of this week. We're going to have you covered here on SlasherU after that game. 2 top 25 teams matching up. As for Kentucky on Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, they take on South Carolina. South Carolina is struggling. They are 7-8. They just lost to Tennessee by over 40 points. If Kentucky can't make a statement game at this one, there's going to be even more questions boiling before they take on Tennessee next Saturday. So they really have to rebound against the Gamecocks to get ready for a team like the Volunteers. Let us know your thoughts in the comment description below. What do you think about this Kentucky team? A lot of question marks about this Wildcat squad and John Calipari and his future for this team. Are they going to make the NCAA tournament? Do you think there is still a chance? I think that is really, the pulse is getting real low, I think, for Kentucky. And then obviously Alabama.
We know what this team is capable of. We're seeing it now. Do you think they can be the top dog in the SEC once it's all said and done this season? Let us know your thoughts in the comment description below. Hit like and subscribe while you're there. And thanks for watching SlasherU.